On the 17th of July, 1978, there appeared along the timberline of Mount Hood, Oregon, three creatures never before filmed. They are the monsters of the Northwest. The Indians call them Sasquatch, the white man, Bigfoot. These primal-looking figures are human beings dressed in costumes for a motion picture. In every detail, they are duplicates of the part man, part ape, described by a variety of reliable eyewitnesses. Arch Buckley has no doubt about the existence of the monster known as Bigfoot. On the night of June 17th, 1970, after 40 years of searching, Arch was soon to be rewarded by a sight he will never forget.
This series presents information based in part on theory and conjecture. The producer's purpose is to suggest some possible explanations, but not necessarily the only ones, to the mysteries we will examine.
Loch Ness, the lovely 24-mile-long lake in Scotland, has sustained an incredible legend for some 16 centuries. That living somewhere beneath its placid surface is a giant prehistoric monster. In the past, In Search Of made its own investigation of the fascinating mystery and presented the most authenticated picture of the creature taken up to that time.
Interesting is what's come out.
Two well-known investigators bring us up to date. Peter Byrne, whose specialty is Bigfoot and the abominable snowman, interviewed Tim Dimsdale, considered a leading expert on the Loch Ness monster.
And incidentally, what is new? What's been discovered in this last 6 months or so?
Well, there's been some very exciting new developments. Last summer, surface photography, there was some two color stills in 35 shot at about 100 yards of a head and neck out of the water. And this is very exciting stuff.
Yes, yes. What do you really think these creatures at Loch Ness are?
I think the most exciting, dramatic, and probably the most likely theory, in my humble view, is that it is a survival, an evolved species of plesiosaur. These were the marine saurians that used to live at sea in the Cretaceous period 70 million years ago, which means they've had a long time to adapt and get bigger. They've got bigger. If this is a plesiosaur, it's got much bigger. And of course, if that's the case, it's enormously exciting. It's very exciting anyway.
How could they have existed all this time and survived in a place like Loch Ness?
Well, we have the classic case. How could they have survived? The classic case of the coelacanth, archaic species of fish, which was supposed to have conked out at the same time, incidentally, in the Cretaceous. And they found them off Madagascar. It didn't. Crocodiles are saurians. They haven't changed at all. It's not impossible that this thing has continued to survive in the sea, and that Loch Ness used to be connected to the sea quite recently. Land rose, it got cut off. So it's not impossible. It's unlikely, but it's not impossible. The fact of the matter is that these animals are real. Whatever they are, they exist. Like your Bigfoot.
Thousands of miles away, along the foggy northern California coast, a unique group of men carry on the search for Bigfoot. They are not hunters in the usual sense. They wield no guns. They spend months each year tracing every available clue, hoping to make contact with the creature they know exists and is endangered by man. Most scientists are, by nature, cautious. Quite properly, they don't announce discoveries until they have substantial proof to support their claims. Certainly, they tend to avoid areas of research that might expose them to ridicule by their colleagues. One such area is, of course, the controversial figure of long-standing legend, the elusive Bigfoot. Therefore, the field of investigation has been taken over by a number of amateurs who have no professional status to jeopardize. We shall follow one group of these monster hunters as they seek further proof to back their belief that Bigfoot does, in fact, exist. Calling themselves the Bay Area Group, they focus their intensive pursuit of Bigfoot mainly in the forests and mountains north of San Francisco. Led by Arch Buckley, they've narrowed their searching to particular areas where prior evidences of the creature have been uncovered. The personnel of each trip may vary, but the information gathered is available to all members. Al Berry is a journalist from Sacramento, specializing in tape recording the sounds of Bigfoot. Warren Thompson of the San Mateo school system seeks proof by photography. Spotting lairs where Bigfoot may have slept is of major interest to Steve Sanders, zoologist and veterinarian. Arch is a footprint expert, but for him, the method of communication is all important.
I saw a Bigfoot. I've had one sighting, but I've had numerous incidents where I've been able to develop somewhat of a rapport with them. Well, there's a great deal more love in this world than it's ever expressed. And animals are no different than people. And if you think positively and act positively, and through the media of soft voice, it's amazing how you can develop a rapport with wild animals. And I'm not talking about park animals. I'm talking about wild animals. And Bigfoot is no different.
The group believes they are dealing with a nocturnal, nomadic creature who keeps constantly on the move. One of the reasons it's been so hard to capture it on film.
I don't think so. They're
A little bit of form there. I don't know.
Yeah, their beds and seats are more...
More often than not, there are false clues and disappointments. When not camping out, the group headquarters in remote lodges. As expected, Bigfoot dominates their conversations.
We feel, in the Bay Area group, that we're dealing with a species that's already an endangered species. And under no circumstances do we recommend going out and shooting one.
One may rightly ask what inspires the group's belief and commitment.
What first convinced me that these creatures exist was an incident that I had in 1969, camping about 20 miles north of the confluence of the Klamath and Trinity Rivers in Northern California, when one of these creatures, about 4 in the morning, walked by the side of the tent into the campground, and we were awakened. A commotion from the inside of the tent startled the creature, and it ran off into the brush. And when it became light enough to go out and see, the trail of prints that it had left, 16-inch prints, very human in appearance, with a stride of 56 to 60 inches between them, is what made a believer out of me.
Footprints, bits of hair that defy classification, all intriguing evidence that an unusual creature inhabits the woods have been found at one time or another. Also, a unique sound has been heard.
It was a remote, high mountain area, and I was aware that there had been some strange goings-on in this area from accounts of other people who had been there. And it was a long hike in, and I got in there in the late afternoon. I set my tape recorder up. I put my mic, taped it to a tree a little ways away from where I'd be bedding down, and then proceeded to wait along and see what developed.
Al Berry recreates for us what happened on the night of October 21st, 1972.
later on that evening, after it grew dark, well, I was tired from the hike in, and I had begun to doze off, when all of a sudden I was awakened by some strange sounds. It was very startling. I didn't know what to think. I had very mixed emotions. On one hand, I was wondering, well, could somebody possibly be out there doing it, some human being? And on the other hand, viscerally, my knees were shaking and my insides were turning a bit, and I was wondering if maybe what I was hearing was some creature that was stranger than anything that we knew. We've had the sounds analyzed since then, and at the University of Wyoming by a professor of electrical engineering there. And the results are the sounds could not have been made by man or any known animal.
Professor Curlin of the University of Wyoming confirmed to In Search Of that Al's tape was tested and shown not to have been artificially manufactured.
As you know, for centuries, we've had reports of large, man-like creatures coming from the Pacific Northwest. Reports from reputable individuals from all walks of life. And in investigating these, I've been struck by the consistency of the reports, the physical appearance, the behavior patterns, and by the sincerity of the people that I've talked to. All these people can't be lying.
The Oregon Regional Primate Center in Portland seemed the logical place to inquire into the possibility of Bigfoot's existence and of his being a distant relative of man. Is it conceivable that a form of man-ape has persisted in the wilds of the Northwest for eons? And if it does exist, how could it elude capture by scientists or killing by hunters? The questions were put to the center's director, the distinguished zoologist, biologist, and primatologist, Dr. William Montagna.
The elements that would make me believe the existence of such creatures would be, for example, artifacts. Human beings, singularly, are deprived of weapons, but they have the best weapons of them all. They have a pair of hands with which they make weapons, and these hands are intimately attached to the central nervous system, and therefore they don't need natural weapons. And we have found absolutely nothing that has been presented, at least, as evidence that these creatures are in existence. If they were humanoid, they would have certainly used their hands to make weapons.
Most scientists want to play it safe. They want to be sure that they're delving with something that they can actually draw a finding and a conclusion.
I am not a specialist in hallucinations. I am sure that people who claim to have seen have in fact seen it. But I'm sure that people claim to have seen God. And I'm sure they have seen it, but they cannot prove to me that they have.
Now, we feel that we have enough information in relation just to our footprints and some of the information that we have gathered. We know positively in our own mind that we're dealing with a humanoid primate.
From what alleged evidence has been presented to me, I have to admit that it is a hoax indeed.
Nevertheless, in June of 1978, the University of British Columbia held an international conference on the subject of Bigfoot's existence. For the first time, a major academic institution had taken notice of, let alone dignified, this controversial subject.
And in the process leaves the medicine songs and divining crystal. Perhaps something of the same pattern can be discerned for Sasquatch. According to Wayne Suttles' presentation last night, The image of Sasquatch has changed over the years.
Bigfoot Sasquatch Information Service Incorporated has the largest files on Bigfoot Sasquatch research in the world.
I really think there's a metastructure to it. The papers are arranged in a lot of...
The conference ended with no official conclusion as to Bigfoot's existence or non-existence.
Particularly when there's been a sighting.
As laymen mingled with professional investigators, however, Bigfoot believers were encouraged by a sense that a new degree of credibility had been brought to a subject heretofore considered only a myth. The scientific community is still, to say the least, skeptical.
We're going to be making a presentation on Saturday, and hopefully, we'll get the sounds out and in front of people where they can hear them as they're recorded.
I read the summary, and it's very interesting. Yes, it looks as though it might be onto something. It really does.
For the Indians of the Pacific Northwest, there's never been any doubt that Bigfoot or Sasquatch shared the woods with them. Numerous totems reflect their impressions of the creature over the centuries. Despite Indian lore and much inexplicable evidence, Bigfoot has yet to be proven a fact of nature. But after 40 years of tireless searching, Arch Buckley claims to have had the definitive experience that erased any possible doubt for him.
But in our particular technique, we knew that this particular group of big feet were in a specific area. And for several weeks, we were attempting to develop a rapport with them. I think we were successful because one day I was able to bring Bigfoot down from the wilderness area to where I had established my base camp on the fringe of the wilderness area.
Arch reenacted For In Search Of what happened starting on a late afternoon in June 1970.
At this particular time, I was using the technique of setting up bait, using principally fish in the form of salmon and shad. Several times during the course of developing this rapport, Bigfoot had come into my campsite and taken my bait. I had a salmon about 12 feet high hanging off of a limb. I had several shad on a tripod about 10 feet away. And I also had set in my car a camera, 35 millimeter camera. During the course of the night, it was sort of a cat and mouse game. I tried to induce him to come into my campsite.
Ook, ook, old friend, old buck friend, ook.
I used the word ook. It's a word that I picked up a number of years ago.
Just for you, ook. Come on, old friend. Fish. Fish.
I knew that he was close by. He was no more than maybe about 30 yards away from me.
Ook, old friend. Old buck friend, ook. 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 Ook, old friend. Old buck friend, ook.
I realized that I couldn't induce him to come in. So I thought, well, maybe I'll get in my car. Maybe this would have a change of effect on him. I was hoping that he would take the bait and maybe I could get a shot of him with my 35 millimeter camera. He swung around and I caught him. I caught him from about the waist on up. I was so impressed with the luminous glare of his eyes. He was looking right at me. He was very powerfully built. I turned around and I put the flashlight back to where he was located, and he had disappeared.
Although Arch did not get his picture, for a few magic moments he had confirmed for himself that his years of waiting had not been in vain. That Bigfoot does exist. and despite the disbelief of the scientific community, needs dedicated men like himself and the Bay Area group to carry on the cause. Coming face to face with Bigfoot after decades of diligent searching was obviously a precious highlight in Arch Buckley's life. But he insists that as important to him is the hope that when and if Bigfoot is proven to all to exist, legislation will be passed to declare and protect it as an endangered species. Undoubtedly, his hope can't be realized until science takes a more serious look at this persistent phenomenon. In the meantime, Arch and the Bay Area group are passing on their considerable store of information to interested young students, with the expectation they will enter the scientific world with an open mind on the subject. Students like Donald Rue.
I understand you're enrolling at the University of California.
Well, I'm planning to study behavioral and evolutionary anthropology. Because like you said, I'd like to understand the behavior of their existence, how they act, you know. Where do they go during the day and what do they do? And with this kind of background, I'd be able to understand the behavior patterns that I observe in the field. And then also with the evolutionary aspect, I'd like to find out where they fit in man's evolution. Are they on a parallel branch, or are they directly our ancestors? I doubt that, but it's possible. And how do they fit in? I'm curious.
Well, this is what George and I had in mind when we organized our Bay Area group. And it's going to be...
It appears that the Bay Area group's wish to preserve both belief in and compassion for Bigfoot will be fulfilled.